All right, what is up, everybody? As always, this is Brandon from ComixKings and Ryan, also part of ComixKings. And today we are here for episode 2 of Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame. And you guys, the comic community, chose Giant Size X-Men. So if you guys are new to this show, how it works is on my Instagram, right? You guys vote for an issue and we put in the poll, see which one wins, and that will be the next key issue for the next week. We're going to do a DC issue next week, but today we are talking about X-Men. Ryan, how you doing today, brother?
I am great. I had class and then I sat down and I read Giant Size X-Men #1 and then I just went about my day. Yeah, because we'll go.
All right, and we're going to just address the chat real quick. We got Captain Comics saying ahoy mates and mermaids. I don't see any mermaids yet, but we do got some mates in here. Then we got No Good Comics. What's up, Justin? How you doing, brother? Saying yo. And then we got Magic Lasso. Giant Size X-Men equals a winner. As Stan would say, enough said. We're going to get to that. We'll get to that later at the end of the show. And then we got California Blend. Gabby, how you doing with the sunglasses? I wish I had my sunglasses on right now. Well, anyway, Ryan, this was your first introduction to Giant Size X-Men. We all know the legacy of it. We all know what this holds. What were your initial thoughts going into this book?
Yeah, so if you've seen my channel or have listened to me talk ever, I'm a big DC guy. My Marvel knowledge is relatively limited. And again, my Marvel knowledge is limited, and then the X-Men is even more limited than that. So I was actually really excited to read this, iconic comic book. It pretty much did exactly what I expected it to do. I expected it to get a team together and then go on some sort of mission with that new assembled team. And that's essentially what it did. The first overall thoughts. The writing was good for the time. I think it definitely holds up. It was a bit of a chore to read, but not too bad.
Right.
I'm saying, like, it holds up relatively well, but at some points,
let me cut you off. Reading Scott Snyder is a chore. Reading this is like a blessing, an enjoyment. This is religious.
Dude, I don't want to get into the arguments yet, but the fact that you compare this to any of Scott Snyder's books is
I didn't compare. I said reading Snyder is a chore.
Dude,
something entirely different. This is awesome. This is the best of the best.
The fact that you would pick, like, if you were like, it's a Saturday evening, I just want to pick up a book to read.
And it's X-Men. It will always be X-Men or Daredevil for me.
No, you know what? I'll say this right off the bat, okay? I'm sick of people who like the X-Men thinking they're comic book elitists, okay? You're not comic book elitists. You're just like a team that is stifled in continuity with very uninteresting characters. That make no sense. Gosh.
What's up, Chad? What's up, brother? Lasso says I'm preaching the truth. I'm glad to have some backup. But anyway, let's get into this story. It is by Len Wein, Dave Cockrum, and we know that there are several first appearances. As we talked about earlier, this is the start of a new era, start of a new team of X-Men. First appearance up, Nightcrawler, Storm, Colossus, and Thunderbird. Wolverine's second appearance. Okay, so we are going to open up the book introducing each character. Len Wein chose to start with Nightcrawler because this was Dave Cockrum's favorite character going into the X-Men, like this whole new era. This is what Dave Cockrum wanted to bring up first. Was Nightcrawler is his favorite character, multiple interviews pointing towards Nightcrawler. He's from Germany. He's being hunted by humans. He's this blue creature who can teleport. He says, "Bam!" every time. It's awesome. Okay, and then he's met by Professor X, gets recruited. So basically how it's going to work, it's kind of like a pattern. They're going to get introduced. Professor X is going to meet him. He's going to mention the X-Men, and he's going to bring them into the fold. Okay, and then we go over to Wolverine, who is in Canada, and Professor X basically just recruits him, takes him out of the government in Canada. And we got Banshee up next. Okay, Banshee's kind of skipped over. Wolverine's kind of skipped over because these two characters are already established. Okay, Storm, we get a little bit more focus on. We don't get too much because that's going to get pursued more in X-Men 102, I believe. Okay, but Storm from Kenya, she's a goddess, and obviously she has powers to create storms, hence her name. And then we got Sunfire. No one cares about Sunfire. I don't care about Sunfire. Okay, and then Colossus, who's from Serbia, and he can basically just turn his body metal. He's super strong. His purpose was just to stand out. Okay, he was like the big guy, kind of like how the Thing kind of carried the Fantastic Four just because of his size and the attention he drew to the page, very similar to the Hulk, and just that kind of power. That's what they were aiming for Colossus. However, when they were planning this, they didn't really assume that everyone would be so attached to Wolverine. Okay, who's like he's 5'2", I believe. Canadian dude who just has an attitude, you know. So basically the whole premise of this book is the old X-Men team gets trapped on Krakoa. So Cyclops, Chet and I care about Sunfire. I don't care about Sunfire. I sure do. But where was it? They were Cyclops has to take this new team and bring them to Krakoa to save the old team. Okay, so it's basically very assembled, and that's exactly what we're doing. And then Ryan, you can take up the second part of this book, kind of just a summarization of what's going on.
Yeah, so basically we learn that Cyclops and Professor X assembled this team because the old team was captured by some force on Krakoa. And then they go. The new team is assembled. Sunfire is like, yeah, I'm not going to risk my life. But, you know, in classic 70s fashion, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go, whatever. And then they split up into teams. With each team of 2 dropping at the north, south, east, and west locations of the island. And basically they go through these, you know, minor scuffles with various things and then meet in the center at a temple that just appeared out of thin air. They get in the temple and see all of the original team kind of strung up in vines. And they're like, the original team's like, Cyclops, what are you doing? Like, they like are feeding on our mutant powers. They you know, they baited you into coming back here. And Cyclops is like, what? And
I was always like, what?
Cyclops is always like, what? And and then basically we learn that Krakoa itself is a mutant, which
shocker. You're not reading what Hickman wrote.
And then, you know, the classic story where they are fighting it and it's not working, and then whoa, something changes and they start winning, but then Krakoa is lifted into the sky because the gravity has dissipated around it, but there's a whirlpool of water, and they're like, Iceman, create this ball around us. So he does, and then they get shot out and land on an ice raft and then are propelled to safety. And then it ends on a glorious joke that I think is very funny and very, you know, it's a foreshadowing of you know, what will come. Now there's now 13 X-Men. There's 13. How is that gonna work? Ha ha ha. Now there's like 40 and they're all bad. So
wait, whoa, they're all bad.
Most of them are bad. Most of them. So
no. Okay, I can understand you saying that Thunderbird is bad or Sunfire is bad. Okay, but Banshee, no. Jean Grey, no. Any of these other characters that were introduced, Nightcrawler, no. Nightcrawler turns into what his legacy in the X-Men even today is. He's one of the most mature mutants, one of those underloved mutants.
Here's the thing about the X-Men.
Ryan is a comedian, right?
I do. I am. I dabble. But here's the thing.
Desire Comics in here. What is up? But when you look at what this
go ahead. I'll save my hot takes till the end.
this issue does a very good job at introducing you to these characters, giving them a very brief overview of their powers, what they can do, and then you see them come together. Okay? That's really the biggest thing. This is like the first time we're going to see them in action. We don't really get many origin stories in this issue because Claremont is later going to tell them through like flashbacks and other stories in his very long, very famous tenured X-Men run. You know, these are going to be Chris Claremont's little babies that he's just going to grow up. Okay. Ryan has a solid 10 minutes.
No, look, I promise you, I'm not as subversive and I don't have these bad opinions. Like, I still think Wally West is the best Flash, like, obviously, duh. But
thank you.
Like, that's obvious. Like, I don't have that many hot takes, okay? It's just, I just think the X-Men are not particularly that great.
Well, that's okay that they're not your thing. Like, we were kind of talking about this off camera. The beauty of comics that there's a little bit for everybody. And Lasso, yes, Wally West is the best Flash.
Exactly.
That's what we agree on. But I personally, I liked most of the character designs. Cockrum is one of my favorite artists. So obviously, like, I love
great. Art is absolutely great.
Obviously, once Byrne came on, you're gonna get a little bit more Wolverine. You're gonna get more Jean Grey, more Cyclops, kind of like playing off those three. And then my only pet peeve with this book, I got two pet peeves. One is Cyclops. If you guys have seen me on other podcasts, hey, what is up, Jen? Saying howdy. What is up? Hope you are having a good night. I am not the biggest Cyclops fan. I'm not going to pretend to be. I don't think he's a very good leader. I think he's very impatient. He's very good with tackle, but I think he's impatient. He gets way too attached. That is a big flaw. It's his character, but it's kind of a flaw that's holding back the X-Men team for future issues. In this book, he was very shallow towards the new team. And it was just like his body language as a whole is just like very dry, very cut, dry, and like not willing to compromise at all.
And that's ironic, dude, because, you know, I'm not a big X-Men fan at all. And Cyclops is by far my favorite X-Men. Like, no question.
Really?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't, and another pet peeve that I don't like about this book is Banshee. I don't like how they draw Banshee. Well, I like how they draw. I don't like how Len Wein has written Banshee. And to be honest, I'm on issue 114. I just read that today for a podcast I'm going to be on tomorrow with John's Comics, the Kids of No Good Comics. So tune into that. But I don't like how Banshee's always the one that gets tortured. He's always the one that gets hurt first. Like, we need someone to torment Banshee. No. Pick someone else. Stop hurting Banshee. I like Banshee. It's just he kind of suffers from that glass ceiling, you know, and with such a big character cast, I don't think that Claremont and Len Wein are able to really achieve everything that they could with each character. Obviously, you can only fit so many pages in an issue. It did a great job, you know. I'm just looking at forward issues and what this holds.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is one of my favorite reads of all time. You know, the legacy of this. Just look at Key Collector, and it'll show you the legacy of this. Look at it on the TV and the movies, you know, and the cartoons. Everything stems from this issue. Okay.
No, and I will say, I don't think there's. So this is not me backtracking. Look, no offense, comic community, but I don't really care if you disagree with my opinions. But I will say this, and I'm not trying to save face.
Bro, hear me running on the treadmill fast.
No. I'm gonna say something good. The idea of the X-Men is actually something that is very, very, very interesting. And I did enjoy this issue. And I think the joke at the end is the reason that I don't like the X-Men. Now, again, this holds up very well. Now, again, I am a DC boy. I don't know much about Marvel at all. Now, this is 10 years for any of my DC fans out there. This is 10 years pre-Crisis, And if you look at some of the stuff that's being written, if you go back and read some Flash or Batman at the time, this is well ahead of its time, and it is written very well. It's Len Wein. What can you say?
The Doom Patrol is the original X-Men.
Listen to me. Listen to me. If you want to get into the Doom Patrol, this is my one recommendation. You have to read Grant Morrison's run.
I'm gonna say Grant Morrison. This guy's a Grant Morrison fanboy.
Dude, if you're gonna read X-Men, you better read Grant Morrison's run. But
I'm gonna say if you read Batman, you better read Grant Morrison.
I actually don't think you should read Morrison's Batman until you have a PhD in Batman. But okay, but back to my whole thing about the X-Men, right? I think the idea of the X-Men is very, very good. Okay. And if it just stuck to 10 members and was basically like, now this is again a very bad analogy, but if it was like DC's Teen Titans, where it's still in the DC continuity, they hang out with the other heroes, and I'm not saying they're sidekicks or whatever, but they're in continuity and they have their own continuity, but they're still part of the larger, mythos, and they can have a rotating cast of characters similar to the Teen Titans. But my problem is that the X-Men, and I said this to Brandon right before we recorded, I watched the 90s, I was born in 2002, but I watched the 90s cartoon when it came up.
What's up?
I do like Wolverine. I will say I do like Wolverine, but
I just didn't like him until Byrne started drawing him.
But I did like the 90s. I love Gambit, ironic, which is weird, but I like the 90s TV show. I like Ultimate X-Men by Mark Millar. But if I went to my LCS right now and I picked up one of the 7 X titles out at the moment, I guarantee you I could not name. And look at my room. Like I pretty much I live and breathe comic books, but I still could not name. I would be willing to wager 70% of the characters in that book. And I think that's the problem.
You've been on enough weekly wrap-up shows to understand that most of them, but
yeah, no, but I know, but the thing is you'll explain an X-Men book that just came out, and I'll be like, I am totally lost.
Well, and you gotta go to this run, even if you read what up until issue 137. Even if you read from Giants to X-Men to 137, you still have enough X-Men knowledge to carry you, right? Because this is really the foundation of the modern X-Men. Now, here's the thing about DC. You were kind of mentioning Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of helped reset the timeline. It introduced multiple continuities. That's what DC has done. Marvel, the only really time Marvel has been known to create an alternate timeline was in the Ultimate Universe. So Marvel doesn't really have the luxury of saying, let's reset the timeline because we have a speedster who can do that for us and completely ruin a character, which that's just the only reason. I think Barry suffers from editorial, but that's a different discussion in and of itself.
I think Barry serves it.
What this issue alone sets up is a cast of characters that introduces a whole new era of comics. Okay, that's simple, right? Len Wein obviously did not stay in this book because Claremont took it over. Dave Cockrum was there until issue, I believe, 107. I'm probably wrong, but I think it was issue 107. Someone in the chat can correct me, preferably Chet, because he probably has it like that. But, this is what introduces you to them. Obviously Thunderbird dies early on. Sunfire is not really in the future of the X-Men as a whole lot. Is like Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean, and this issue really just blends these two teams together, right? The old and the new. Earn was 108. Okay, I was off by one. That's not bad for like that. But
I just go. I think we're definitely saying different things, but we're kind of on the same page in the fact that I think if now again I don't want to advocate for the constant status quo of comics, but I don't have a problem with 10 people in a school being the X-Men. I have no problem with that. I think that's really cool. I think it's kind of like my problem is the current X-Men. And honestly, now this is an insult to X-Men fans. I think X-Men fans, quite frankly, are people who got into comics in the 90s when Jim Lee was drawing it and just that was their whole world.
No, it was people who got into comics when Claremont to go, okay, so
No, Claremont to Lee. Like what I'm saying is like that era.
okay, so X-Men and Daredevil, okay? I'm putting these two on the same level.
Do
So
not. Daredevil is much
no,
better than the X-Men.
level because they were not big sellers going into the Bronze Age. Once Giant Size X-Men hit, once Frank Miller took over started drawing on 164, took over the story 168. I know that like that. But those became from bi-monthly. So they came out once every 2 months to started coming out like bi-monthly, like once a month, kind of like what we're used to today, pre-COVID when stuff was coming out monthly. But yeah. That's what this brought. It turned these books into Marvel's top 2 sellers. No More Mutants. Speaking of No More Mutants, I'm going to be doing a discussion on House of M this Thursday. With
House of M's good. I like House of
M. That's what Giant Size X-Men did, is it brought a whole new wave of people into the X-Men and brought a fresh start. Not only that, you talk about in today's comics, a big issue is how do you bring in minority characters or characters from different backgrounds? You have someone from Serbia. You have a Southerner.
I think it's Siberia.
Siberia. I misspoke. Siberia. You have someone from Japan. You have someone from Germany. You have someone from Kenya. You even have a Canadian. So you have people that are not necessarily, other than like Thunderbird and like Cyclops, you have people come from all over the world. Okay, that is huge for comics, especially because comics is a worldwide jam. It's like a worldwide hobby. It's a worldwide community that brings us together. Okay.
I think the X-Men is the perfect place to do that. It's already about a bunch of people who feel alienated, who feel like they're misfits in society. So it's a perfect, it's a perfect team to do that. I do not like an island of mutants. I most certainly don't like an island mutant. I don't like that. It's just.
Well, Cyclops to him, and he's able to control him and tame him. It's not his fault. Apocalypse almost messed it all up.
Yeah, you see, you mentioned that, and I just hear a bunch of stupid continuity BS that just makes the
X-Men like a month ago.
Okay, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Listen, the difference between the X-Men and Daredevil is because they were both under.
Thank you, Chet. X-Men.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely.
So when you look at DC Future State right now, and you're seeing all these characters being forced into a book where they should not be forced into, go back to how Len Wein and Dave Cockrum did it, and Chris who got uncredited for it. Look at what they did, and you tell me that this issue did not kick off the best legacy in comics.
No, it did not. Detective Comics 27 might have done that. Batman #1 might have done that. Action Comics #1 might have done that. Here is my thing, okay? When Daredevil was underperforming, they put a relative unknown on the book who wrote some of the greatest comic books ever written.
Andrew,
yes, you're right. But took a swashbuckling hero and made
Hey, don't call him swashbuckling.
Dude, no, look, you do not have to worry about my irreverence for Daredevil. I love Daredevil. But what I'm saying is Stan Lee era Daredevil was just a swashbuckling hero. And what they did is they gave a multi-layered personality. They had this beautiful story and this beautiful run by Frank Miller and turned what was a swashbuckling shallow hero into a complex hero that, again, we can see Bendis, Wade, Brubaker, Diggle, all of these runs, Kevin Smith.
Good writer, Diggle's.
No, I'm not saying it was good, but I'm saying you can tell so many layered stories with that. Their solution for the X-Men. Now, again, I hear Claremont's run is very, very good, but I'm sure I will eventually,
You'll be my
but
Marvel Unlimited dog. You better read it. I can track when you read it now.
dude, oh my. But the thing with the X-Men is it's this constant problem where instead of um instead of taking the character like Daredevil and making them layered, interesting, something where story upon story can be told and it's still incredible. Even Zdarsky's Daredevil currently is great. But hold on, let me finish this point, and then we'll get to that comment. But what their solution with the X-Men is instead of meaningful growth and development between between a bunch of 13 misfits learning their place in the world, they decided, hey, let's just make a bunch of cool characters, make it completely separate from the rest of the Marvel universe, and and layer it so much in this continuity that has nothing to do with the rest of our books.
So here's my question. What did you like about this issue?
What did I like about this issue? Because
we know what you didn't like.
Yes. Okay. What did I like about this issue? The art is great. The writing is great too. And I have no problem with this issue. The problem I have is this starts a lot of the problems with the X-Men, in my opinion. I think it did exactly what I expected it to do with pretty good writing. So yeah, I thought it was all right. By Giant Size X-Men.
Actually, Lasso, he is gonna trade it to me for my first appearance of Damian Wayne because apparently that's his guy, written by Grant Morrison. But just value for me, and I'm gonna get it signed by. Oh wait, Len Weed's not here. Cockrum, we'll get it. No, I'll get it signed by someone. I'll buy it signed. That's the goal. One day. Okay. But anyway, where do you fit this into Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame?
You want to go first because I have to think for a quick second.
I'm going Hall of Fame, no doubt.
Well,
Hall of Fame. Now, there's a reason why in this show today, last week against, there's a reason why this show we didn't is because of Giant Size X-Men. Obviously, this is a very holy book in the Marvel universe, so I wanted this show to be a little bit funny. That's why Ryan is being a dick. But excuse my language. But yeah, I don't want this to be your typical discussion of Giant Size X-Men. It's always good to get the other side from the Batman fanboy side. Being this guy. But what is your vote?
All right.
I think the chat is
Listen to me.
I think you're getting peer pressure here, Ryan. Where are you going with this?
Look, here's the thing, okay? I've said it. I don't know. I don't know what this constant disagreement with me is. And I understand that I've said I like the concept of the X-Men. I just don't think the execution has been particularly good in very recent times. Right.
And okay. Entitled to your opinion. In this case, you're just wrong. That okay. I'm kidding, Ryan.
Imagine like people are like, oh yeah, the Bat family's getting too big. Oh my gosh, there's so many people. I can barely.
The Bat family's been ruined for a decade and a half.
But I just find it hilarious how people are like, oh man, the Bat family's getting way too big. Oh my gosh, they just introduced the 387th X-Men? Dude, I'm so excited to hear about this character for 2 weeks and then not again for 3 years.
This means that we're gonna have to get another member of ComixKings because
look, I'm not saying I hate the X-Men. I'm just saying that I think 13 guys and gals in a school is cool, but 387 guys and gals in a school is not. But
it's you in the Hall of Fame for you. It's okay if it's not. It's okay.
No, I know, and I'm actually thinking about it because here's what I was thinking about. This issue is very good considering the time it came out, how influential it was. I think it is. I think it is. It's funny. It's funny. You're a funny guy, eh? I think it is incredibly influential. I think it's very well written. I think the art is great, and I think it sets up a lot of good stories. My problem is it also sets up. It's not this book's fault. It's Marvel editorial's fault, but it sets up everything that's wrong with the X-Men.
So
But all of that is for me to say
we're talking about this story alone.
I am very tentatively putting this in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. All right. So that solves it. So we got Hall of Fame from both ends. Obviously, the chat's saying Hall of Fame. Next week, this is going to be a weekly show every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Big shout out to the chat. Tomorrow, we'll be posting up episode 3 graphic, and you guys vote for your DC issue. We're going to do a DC issue. We just did Invincible. We did Invincible's episode 1 with a kid joined us. Episode 2 was this. Obviously, episode 3, we're going to go DC. So make sure you guys keep your eyes out, comment on that. Your favorite DC keys. Let's make it a little bit interesting. Obviously, this is...
Do some Morrison Batman, please.
Let's not get some Morrison Batman. But obviously, we love having you guys here. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button, click the like button, and make sure you guys subscribe to me and Ryan. This is Brandon, part of the ComixKings. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me, as always.
Thank you so much. It was great. If you guys, you may disagree with my X-Men opinions, but please come over and subscribe. We're at 91 subscribers, and at 100K, at 100, I will be releasing a Q&A about some of my other comic book opinions. So if you'd like to see the less,
I think you quite the impression on your comic book opinions.
No, you guys got the worst of it with the X-Men. My other ones are pretty mild.
But anyway, thank you guys for checking this out. If you get to the replay, much love to you too. I'll see you guys back throughout the week. I'll see you guys on other channels. Thank you guys so much. And make sure y'all tune in tomorrow. No Good Comics, John's Comics and Kids with their X-Men Omni. I'm going to be joining them as a guest. So make sure you guys check that out tomorrow. I forget the time. But I'll see you guys there. This is Brandon and Ryan. Have a good night, you guys.
Peace out.